Gracious Father, thank you for another day. Thank you for a story to tell. I pray that I tell it well. I pray that anyone who sees and hears this episode, let them be inspired, educated, and made known that with you all things are possible. Pray and ask these things in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. It's crazy, bro. I think for the latter half of our greater adult life, because we've known each other for quite some time, you made it a point to pray before and we was leaving the crib one time. All right, and it's like, before I come into space, I'll make sure I pray, right?
Absolutely.
Man, I love that, right? Because it keeps you grounded. But that makes me want to ask off the top, right? What was going on in your life, right? What was happening when you made that decision to truly, fully give your life to God?
Yeah. So if you remember, kind of left off on the county. It was that night in the county when life had all came to a head, and just again knowing and understanding what I should be doing compared to what I was doing. But being at a space where I had to make a decision on what the rest of my life was going to look like. Because even though I made reckless decisions, my life meant a lot to me.
What would I say? Wow.
Yeah, so it somebody can look from the outside and be like, man, you were careless, you were doing this, you were doing that. But in reality, my life was sincerely important to me.
Yeah.
So when I made it to that crossroads, I knew the only way to move forward, to continue forward, was, to give my life fully to God.
For sure. And I love that. But I have to ask, even with that, right? You talked about you still cared about your life. A lot of times when folks are living reckless, I think that's something that's missed. Is people still care.
Yeah.
Right? I'm reckless. I have a reason to be reckless. But in that recklessness and in that giving your life fully to God, how did that decision, or what about that decision, change how you thought? So you move from acting reckless but still caring to like, okay, let me be mindful and care.
Yeah, so it helped me realize that I had all the tools, I had all the resources, I had all the abilities. I was just pointing them in the wrong direction. So if I took everything that I was doing, all the effort, all the time, thinking, planning, scheming, and I, did it for the kingdom. I did it in a way that was going to honor God, honor my children, honor whatever it is He was asking me to steward. I knew I could get the same results, and they would be protected, they would be insured, they would be favored if I did it for Him.
I love that, shifting your intent. Right? They say you are who you are, no matter what. Like if you can run a game, you can run a program.
Yeah,
right?
You can. Yeah,
if you can sell dope, you can sell houses.
You can sell houses. It's just a matter of what are your principles, what's driving you, what is your moral compass, and I just decided that it was going to be the Word of God.
I love that, man. So the question that I got to ask next, right, is what was the most difficult season that you faced during this time, and how did it test you mentally and spiritually?
So the most difficult, you said what's the most difficult part? Was literally fighting trial.
Okay.
Right? So what, people hear the story and they're like, oh, he got out. That was just the end of it. But they whopped my charges, So in short, I don't know how to describe it in legal terms, but it just means we got an amount of time that we can bring the charges back up.
Without prejudice.
Yeah, without prejudice. So, I get out, I meet Ty. I legitimately start changing my life then. I made decisions. There was friends I had to give up, habits I had to give up, places I couldn't go. Got a job. That's where me and you met, Heartspring.
Yeah.
So, I go from having the money to now I'm dealing with kids with disabilities. It was a very humbling, character-building job. Life was going good.
You went from counting cash to wiping ass.
Literally, bro. And it wasn't a long period of time, but me and Ty's relationship is growing. Zion is here now by this point, so this is a couple of years later. And I'm at work, and no, as a matter of fact, I go take care of a ticket. So I went to the county, take care of a ticket. They call me up, and I hear cuffs behind me, And they turn around, they put me in cuffs, and they're like, are you Vincent Martin? I'm like, yeah. And they were like, hey, you got a warrant. I'm like, man, how do I got a warrant or whatever? I needed to go to booking. I get all the way over there. That's when I learned that they're bringing the charges back up. So it was so hard and discouraging to know I made all the right decisions. I got away from all the people, kicked the drugs, which that in itself is a story, right? Like Ty will tell you, I was living in the weekly at K96 in Oliver,
Word.
detoxing, no medicine, no counselor, nobody to tell, just gave up the drugs, didn't eat, throwing up, like went through all of that, the hallucinations, all that, like turned my life around just to find out 2.5 years later, I still got to go and fight. And that was hard because, trial isn't something that happens overnight.
Yeah.
Mine was about, I want to say 16 months. So 16 months of stress, not knowing, one week the lawyer is like, oh yeah, it's looking good. The DA is this. And then the next one, it's like, well, no, like it ain't looking good now. This person picked up the case and this person sees these offenses this way. And so it was a year of that. And Zion is there. Kylie is there. So again, my life was important to me, but now I have 2 children.
Yeah.
So that was the most difficult part.
And I can only imagine it's even more challenging because you aren't innocent.
Yeah.
But these were things that you had actually done.
I did this.
But now at this point in your life, you're a different man, right? So word in there, right? Because you still have to deal with the consequences of your actions previous. That's the word, man. So as you're looking at this, what you talked about Kylie and Zion being there, man. What kept you from folding? What kept you from falling back into?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, it was literally them and Ty. I love my family. Don't get me wrong. My grandmother to this day is my world. My mother was still alive at that time. My father, my brothers and sisters. But the risk that Ty took with me, and the way that she supported me, the way that she took in Kylie, then gave birth to Zion. Man, I had a million things to not break under pressure for.
Yeah.
And then it was them, knowing that God had made a promise to me, that I would experience marriage and fatherhood, all these things I had visioned young. So that kept me, from not folding, and just having the faith. Because Ty was a student. I think she was making $10 an hour. I'm working at Hard Spring. We got our own bills, but now I'm fighting trial.
Yeah.
I'm paying lawyer fees and retainer fees and court fees and all this other stuff. And so it was overwhelming, but I didn't fold. I couldn't imagine folding.
Yeah, and I can imagine everybody that was around you that was part of what you was doing before it's gone. Like you said, shredded it.
Yeah.
And are they involved in your case at all in this time?
No.
So this solo dolo.
Yeah, solo. Yeah.
Ooh, except your family is there. And so you're a father, and your kids are able to see all of these things, man. So perspective wise, what shift did you see in yourself, right, and your life and your standards after becoming a father?
It wasn't about me, because you pinpointed this, right? Like all up until then was survival in every aspect: sports, competition, family life, making decisions, all about survival. But I had made my mind up that my children were going to grow up thriving, like legitimately thriving. So even the day I got out the county, man, I started having hope that day for a better life, for stress-free life, for if I just zoom fast forward all the way to today, like to the life I have today.
Yeah.
I was having these thoughts and hopes and dreaming and daydreaming and writing it in pads. Everything I have today, I was doing that during this period, which kept me from folding, which kept me invested, committed to being a father and being a husband. One thing I can brag on 100%, our marriage has been without drama. There's no schemes, there's no scams, there's no scandals. There's no woman that can say, oh, this is what I've done with Vincent, and there's no man that can say, oh, well, this is what I've done with Ty. Like we're not perfect, but our lives are everything that we said we were going to pursue from the beginning.
Yeah. Ooh, it was written. Figuratively and literally.
For sure.
Right. And so as you look at that purpose, that vision that you had early, right? You look at, as you mentioned, the marriage, ain't no stains on it, right? Like y'all strong. It's legacy.
Legacy, for
right?
sure.
What did marriage teach you about leadership? Because before it sounded like he was all about you.
Yeah.
What did marriage teach you about leadership?
Man, it's so much reward when you put other people first. My wife is so low maintenance. You know, she's so low, she doesn't require much. And because of that, I make sure to give her the best,
I can only imagine.
you know?
Yeah.
So again, it was never, why do I have to go to work? It was never, oh, I got this second shift job because I'm working at the psychiatric facility. I mean, it's physical every single day in, day out. There's no snow days, there's no this, there's no that. And by that, time, I've worked myself up to a lead.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was leadership, there was all these things, and it made me want to give my best to it.
Mm.
You know?
I love that. I love that. So, kind of same kind of question, but even switching gears a little bit, right? How did your relationship challenge you to grow into a better man? So outside of, because we're the head of our household, we're the head of our marriage, right? But there's also the aspect of like, yo, I am my own man at the same time, right? Where did that challenge come from?
It helped. It challenged me in the sense that I had to problem solve a different way, especially making that transition. By no means am I Scarface. No means am I Franklin Saint. But also by no means did I allow situations and or people to, control, whether physically, mentally, economically. I just didn't let people have control of my life. And the way that I usually dealt with that was hostile.
Okay.
And so that transition for me as a man was knowing that not every confrontation had to be hostile. Not every confrontation had to come to blows, and that we didn't have to trip out. I learned how to talk and be diplomatic and use. I had the intellect, but I started to actually use it instead of just saying, "Well, there's no form of intellect to solve this kind of problem except for tripping."
Yeah.
So that was one thing that I learned because again, I can't make those kind of decisions and have to go post bail, fight trial again. So it really helped me be a better man in that situation.
So going through it put you in a position, like you said, to figure things different as a man, right? And now you're in a grand position where you're coaching and training young men.
For sure.
Right. When we look at elite athletic training,
yeah, it's a mouthful.
Right? It's a mouthful.
You gotta call it eat. Yeah, that's why we call it eat.
We talk about eat, and that's a dope transition. I think as we talk about the leadership skills, the man, right? Because now you're passing all of this down to the next generation. How did elite athletic training actually start?
Okay, so again, when I got a second chance, you gotta know. Just like my story last time, I told Ty, you give me a second chance, I'll spend the rest of my life every day prove to me that you made the right decision. So I had the same conversation with God.
Yeah.
Everybody prays that prayer. God, if you get me out of this one. But I prayed that prayer, and when He got me out of it, I stuck to my word.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I said I was going to do was build multiple businesses, be involved with multiple businesses, and build something that even when I'm gone, I can pass it down to my children. So Kylie was an athlete, but when Zion was born, even from day one, I'm like, oh yeah, like this, I got a son, all the things I missed out on, like I'm going to pour into him. So that's really how the gym started.
Okay.
With Zion, he was about 5.5 years old, and I was like, even if I teach him the basics, he can get a head start. And he loved working with me, and I loved working with him, and I always wanted to be a coach. So it was just a great starting point.
I love that. Ooh, I love that. So in that vision, and it's dope being able to give your son the things that you didn't have, and not from a sense of like, I tell my kids all the time, but I tell my kids all the time, like, I want you to be better than me, and I'm really dope.
Yeah.
Right? You don't have to be better than me at the things I'm great at, but I need you to be better than me, and that's going to come from me teaching, coaching, and training you to take us to that next level. As you were going through this process of starting the elite athletic training, right, with Zion as your premier athlete, I guess that's
for sure.
Did you run into a spot or a time where nobody seen the vision of the gym but you?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's with everything that I'm walking in right now. All of it, One thing I will say is I've always had positive people around me, but I can also say people didn't see the vision. I don't think there were people around me who doubted me or felt like it wasn't possible, but I definitely think they didn't see the vision. Maybe they felt like it was too big or it wasn't possible. People may not be interested in kids getting trained. Because when I started, the real only other trainer around was Brian Butler. Shout out to the GOAT.
Yeah.
A lot of respect and honor for Brian. Motivated me to get out there and do what I'm doing. But yeah,
Yeah. And we talked before about how that kind of get back against the wall of that self, that not that self doubt, but that doubt from others. Really,
yeah,
like
yeah.
I got to prove myself. Takes to that next level. So it shows up.
It shows up.
Again at the gym.
Yeah, it shows up again because, by the time the gym came, I went through trial. You could say I beat trial.
Okay.
And man, I love speaking about this, right? Because there's always that group of people, they served time or they from a different walk and they want to be able to discredit any and everything. They want to be able to put a stamp on you and put you in this light. And when I went through trial, it was constant war, and it's crazy, but the criminal justice system, the way that it works, it's not always just cut and dry.
No.
There's always corners and this and that. And I said all that to say, I was looking at time. And I didn't have a co-defendant. I wasn't anybody's co-defendant. Like you asked me earlier, it was my trial.
Yeah.
And it's stuff that I knew I did. So, when I was going through it, there was a point where it was like, it was going to be a miracle if I just only had to do 5 years, 6 years.
Yeah.
But having faith, staying diligent, doing the work, being the man, sticking to my word to God, it created an opportunity. So in this transition from what we were talking earlier with me getting a job and turning my life around, Zion being born, to now we're getting ready to start this gym, man, I had already seen God work miracles. I had already seen God make a way. Bro, I remember when I first got convicted, I was working a job that once they found out I had been convicted, they still didn't fire me.
Ooh, that's
what I'm saying?
Word. Yeah.
It was all the things I had been doing for the 2.5, 3 years. Even while I was fighting trial, I didn't give up on having good character, showing up, being dependable, being disciplined. I didn't give up. I didn't let that waver. And so then my work started to speak louder than my past, right? Which that gave me superpower, right? So now I'm going and I'm swinging at things that most people that had my background, because I ended up getting convicted.
Yeah.
I ended up getting convicted, but I didn't have to spend a day in jail. And I got off topic.
No.
I want to say this. People want to say, oh, he had to snitch. He had to do that. Oh, no, I didn't. I stood on 10. I went through trial. I dealt with the ups and downs, and the DA wanted to give me this deal and that deal. And so finally they settled on, because I had so much character in the community.
Yeah.
I had built so much character because I made that decision and I stuck with it. That's why it's so important that when you say you're going to do something, you got to continue with it because you never know when it's going to pay off. I could have told God, like, oh yeah, I'm going to turn my life around, and did it for a year and got right back into the streets. And now I'm fighting trial and I'm back in the streets. But because I decided to be a man, be a father, be a husband, be loyal, when all that came, I ended up getting 3 years of probation, right? But take it a step further. I was serving by then. I had found a church. I was part of a youth group. My probation officer sang in the choir at the church. We didn't even know each other until I walked in her office, and she was my probation officer.
Wow.
And because of that, she's like, I've seen you serve. I've seen your family. I remember when she first came and did the walkthrough at our house, she was like, you just don't fit the mold. Like what your paper says and what I'm looking at is not saying. Long story short, another miracles worked. So I only ended up doing about 8 months of probation.
Yeah.
After all that, I was supposed to do 7 years, ended up with probation, and ended up with only 7 months. And I remember I got off probation a week after me and Ty got married.
Wow.
My probation officer said, go, you come back, you don't fail a drug test, you don't fail an alcohol test, you pay off all your fines, and you'll be on probation. So because I made this commitment to God and I stuck with it, we got all the way through our marriage, and it was like the chains were taken off. Yeah. So by the time the gyms come around, bro, I'm running with a full head of steam. Nobody can convince me that anything is impossible.
Yeah.
And that's what I continue with all of our businesses, every venture, everything that I've ever done, bro. I do with 100% faith because God kept me when bullets was flying. God beat trial. God brought me through my childhood. So I'm operating with a certain amount of momentum that somebody just coming and telling me that's not possible That don't make sense. That's not a good idea. That's not going to stop
Yeah.
me, you know? So, yeah.